You can see if you're watching on Warchant TV, this is not the usual arrangement. I'm at my house. Tom, you will see pop up on the screen any moment. He too is at his humble abode. We are pre-recording today's show. We are out of town at the time that you watch this on a corporate outing. I know that sounds smug to say, but it's the truth. We had an opportunity to be with people that are really nice and invited us to play some golf and have a speaking engagement. And that's a fun speaking engagement when you get to play nice courses. So we're doing that today. And no show on Thursday. We are back with you on Friday, but we didn't want to leave you without content today. So there was plenty to talk about. And Tom and I yesterday, as soon as headlines finished, said, hey, why don't we do a show? Why don't we do a show, do the right thing? We don't deserve brownie points for that. It's just we want to note that that's how this thing played out. That's what happened, and we're happy to do it. All right, so I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Director Matthew here, as always. I point all this out, A, because the FCC likes us to, and B, because if you're on the watch here, if you're on the chat, we can't see your questions. I'll come back. I'll look at them. I'll see what you guys were talking about. Sometimes I rather like the dialogue. I rather enjoy the give and the take. Other times I don't at all.
He's not going to look at your questions. Come on now.
I may go back and look at some. I'm not going to go back and look at questions. I may go back and look at the conversation.
So is the chat conversation review going to be maybe responded to on Arbor Day? We're going to give Arbor Day for that particular one?
Yeah, Flag Day is for all of the emails I didn't get to during the course of a year. And you are exactly right. Old chats will be paid attention to on Arbor Day. That's a great day. Or President's Day. Maybe I'll do it then. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a more irrelevant. Arbor Day was pretty good, man. That's well done on your part.
Yeah, you know why I said Arbor Day?
No.
Because this year was on April 29th. It was last week. So you've got a full year before you have to come due on that.
I like that. So I'll check your chat in about a year from when we missed today. I'll be back there. Maybe Tom will check it beforehand and say, hey, I checked it. There's some worthy conversation pieces on there, Jeff. You should go back and see I like to see how people treat each other.
Do you? Are you sure?
Oh, I marvel.
Okay,
yeah, I marvel.
Marvel at it is different than curiously looking to see, because I've got an answer for you. If it's the internet and there's a keyboard as a means of communication, it is not going to go well.
So we wanted to talk about something. I'm going to lead with it today because at this time we can't lead with the result from last night's baseball game. I don't even know if we would lead with that, but we'd certainly note it. And I don't know how much I'm going to talk about. I already mentioned the hire for FSU soccer, but the introductory press conference and Q&A happened yesterday. But we've spent a lot of time on the transformation of college football. You sent an interesting article, and we kind of discussed it off the air a couple of different times. I wonder how many people out there, I know that Ross Dellinger does good work and a lot of people read his work. I wonder how many people read last week in the wake of Mark Emmert's exit or announced exit a year from now or thereabouts, about something known as the Transformation Committee. They don't get points for originality. The Transformation Committee is considering wholesale changes to college football. Imagine that. But there's actually a thing called the Transformation Committee. First of all, can we just note that? Did you know that before you read that article? The Transformation Committee is a thing?
Not before I read the committee. We need to come up with a sounder. It's not for video. It doesn't work as well as the radio studio. It's like, whoosh, 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 it's different than, and then poof, there it is. There's the transformation. It's like, look at me. I'm a completely different guy, except it's not going to work either. So,
all right. So you can do the wow here because the transfer portal. There. Oh, that was a good one. So the transfer portal is discussed in this, and the idea that it might be open for only 3 months out of the year. The recruiting calendar will feature no evaluation or quiet periods whatsoever, potentially, according to the Transformation Committee. The Transformation Committee, for those that don't know, is a group of high-ranking college leaders, whatever that is, charged with overhauling and modernizing NCAA governance, considering revolutionary changes is what they're doing. Some administrators describe this as radical. So there was a briefing, and in that briefing, athletic administrators this week in Dallas, committee leaders this past week, I should say, revealed ideas to deregulate longtime NCAA bylaws and decentralize such decisions to the conferences. And according to one athletic director, that's going to make heads explode. That committee shared concepts about what they could do, and they may announce these things in the not too distant future. Basically, they want to potentially eliminate scholarship caps on sports that offer only partial scholarships. So you could have a ton of scholarships for baseball, abolishing the limitation on the number of coaches per team. That's not something we thought was a good idea in the recent past. We'll see. Expanding direct payments from schools to athletes, reconfiguring the recruiting calendar, implementing closed periods in the NCAA transfer portal. I think that's a good idea. So these would be made, by the way, by the conferences, Tom. Anything else that raised your antenna to think, oh, well, that will work, or I don't like any of these ideas? I largely read the piece and went, I'm not sure I like many of these ideas at all.
No, most of them suck. I think this is them.
I'm glad we did not talk about this beforehand in regards to your opinion on it, so I'm glad we're on the same page.
No, most of these are terrible. You know, the guy who's like trying to get fired at the office, at least from a sitcom or something like that. I feel like that's what the NCAA Transformation Committee is trying to do here for the NCAA as it relates to college football. They are trying to get fired because a lot of these ideas led by turning it over to the conferences to police themselves or set their own standards? No way, because the SEC is going to be like, sure, hire as many coaches as you want. Sure. Yes, absolutely. Unlimited scholarships for every sport. Let's make sure that, I don't care, not just the partial ones. Let's do it for every single sport so we can hoard all of the talent. We have the resources to hoard all of the talent. There's no way this works. I think what this is a further backing out now that Emmert is gone and he's been a plague for the sports industry, the college sports industry. This is them saying, we're out, guys. You go form your new league. You do whatever you need to do. Decentralize is right until you centralize again under a new umbrella, certainly not our umbrella at the NCAA. So where I think this is going, as you see, my man has left the camera and he's left the proverbial studio, is the NCAA is kicking the can down the road and saying, somebody else, you pick it up because this mess is way too big and we don't want to hire the amount of manpower and woman power that would be necessary to legislate all the changes that need to come in the college game.
I left you in the lurch, but you handled it gracefully as my dogs were barking and the door was being opened and closed, and that's largely my fault there. But these are the hazards from recording at home in lieu of being there in studio, and I agreed and heard everything you had to say. I think it is also their way of saying, as is quoted here, according to one athletic director, some sort of change is coming. There are people talking about it, and these are topics that will be introduced next month, or later this month, I should say, when coaches, athletic administrators, and university presidents are going to gather to discuss national and conference legislation. So, okay, good. I love the idea. I mean, there's several silly comments here where it's sort of like the athletic directors quoted on condition of anonymity are saying to Ross Dellinger and other reporters, boy, if we get half of what's being proposed here, just be ready, everybody. Massive changes are coming. Oh, well, yeah, man, this article's already dated. I mean, I'm bringing it up because I think it's viable to know that people, administrators, people higher ups at universities are meeting to discuss about what to do. The NCAA remains powerless to do much, but I do think university presidents and university athletic directors and coaches alike are extremely concerned, rightfully so, and do want to try to do something, hopefully sooner rather than later. That's all this is an indicator to me that they're willing to already begin to meet and say, we got to do something. I don't know whose recommendations we're going to choose, but we can't sit idly by and watch this.
Right. It's just a matter of, following the money. I often talk about how the network executives, the TV execs who are seeing the ratings go down because the sport is less interesting or whatever it is, they will be motivated to make these changes, and they will be motivated to start the conversation, which is the most important question. Who's going to start the conversation? Oh, these dudes, if you're affecting their bottom line and they can't buy a second yacht, yeah, they're going to start those conversations. But my other question about following the money is, okay, Title IX is a problem. And I don't mean that in terms of as legislation and what it attempts to do and what it sets out to do to advance the cause of folks who aren't treated equally when it comes to educational opportunities and otherwise. But Title IX is a problem as how do you share the money and how do you make it equitable when football is the whole pie and then all other sports is just this little sliver that's left? How do you make that work? Do you reclassify and then Title IX no longer applies? Do you funnel all of that money to NIL organizations once, perhaps there's federal legislation that allows universities and these organizations to work together across the country? And that's how you mete out the dollars. And you say, well, listen, we're providing equal scholarships to both male and female players, or revenue sports and non-revenue sports. Like, my whole thing is, these changes are going to be dictated not by professors and university presidents in the NCAA. These changes are going to be dictated by the people who control the money. The TV network executives, and I don't know what groups of people are going to be able, lawyers are certainly going to be involved, that can iron out the issues of how do we make sure this jives with federal law like Title IX while also reclassifying and making it work for the players and getting them paid. That's the best. Nobody wants to deal with that, but it's the people who will have the power to deal with the money that are going to solve this problem, not,
And this can get bogged down because that is a very important conversation. I think if you just take it to the fans, though, they don't really care how it happens. They just care that, look, we've got to have maybe different rules pertaining to scholarships. Maybe we make changes that we're talking about on a daily basis on this show and others around the country that care about college athletics. But as we move closer and closer to players being employees, and we talk about unionizing thousands of players, fans hear of their players being poached from their team the second that somebody else comes along. It leaves most of those people feeling empty. And the reason they feel kind of empty is the connections to the players that went to their school that made them feel like it was similar to their experience are being lost more every day. And there's nobody to set a set of parameters to guide how we navigate all of this. And so there's a helplessness. There's just sort of I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what the answers are. And it doesn't sound like anybody's coming to save us. I kind of brought this up because it does sound like at least the chatter has begun. At least people are saying, hey, no matter how radical the idea is, throw it out there, guys. Let everybody know we're talking. And yes, I hope the next thing we hear about conversations regarding college football is that it's from TV executives and others who have the power to maybe implement said changes. Chef Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Continuing in a moment.
Control Company.
Oh, and what do we know about pests in northern Florida?
Absolutely nothing.
Did you know that most pest and termite companies that serve Patsy are actually owned and operated by people that don't even live in our area? One owner is actually in Great Britain.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control was founded in North Florida, operates in North Florida, and services North Florida.
All of Paul's decisions and treatments, plus prevention methods, are centered around the unique needs of our wonderful part of the world.
Being local really does matter in our industry.
Don't trust the health of your family to companies that aren't even on our continent.
Protect your biggest investment from termites and your family and pets from pests with a company with the local advantage, Paul's Termite and Pest Control.
And remember, Paul's keeps North Florida lawns green too. For the elimination of termites and other pests,
and a greener lawn too,
call Paul's.
We'll get them all.
Will you use a fly swatter?
I believe we do.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186. Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Springfest is happening at Lowe's, where you'll find everything you need this season, like premium mulch for our new low price of $2.98 a bag. And the spring savings don't stop there. With select Bonnie 11.8-ounce vegetables, 4 for $10. Shop Lowe's right now for everything Springfest has to offer. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. Bonnie offer in-store only. Plant size and selection varies by location. While supplies last. Valid 4/21 through 4/27. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Here we go. Your next chance to grow your green this spring and win $1,000 is coming up at 2 p.m.
I just won $1,000.
Listen for the keyword at the top of the hour. Then enter that keyword online at realtalk93.com.
Siri, tell me a joke. The past, present, and future walk into a bar. It was tense.
All jokes aside, the trained professionals at Mac & More Systems are serious about Apple products. For all your Mac repairs, call Mac & More Systems at 894-3622. 894-3622.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Cameron Show Balls McWednesday edition. And as we told you at the top, today's show is recorded. Tom and I have the good fortune of playing a lot of golf and going to a corporate outing and a speaking engagement, and I'm excited about it. And we didn't want to leave you without content. So just a reminder, today's show is recorded, and we're kind of hopping all over the place here today. But hey, man, somebody asks you to go play golf at the Robert Trent Jones courses, if you will, then what are you supposed to say no to that? We had to say yes. You would have done the same thing. Hey, this is a subject that I would have brought up either way, no matter when we did it, because I'm always amazed by this. It's a theme on the show. It's a theme in life. It's a theme in general. I think especially in the modern era with social media and the 24-hour news cycle. If you feel a certain way about one thing, just wait a day, it'll change. Or if you are certain of something, keep it to yourself, because there's a good chance that that's not correct, whatever it is. Now, I'm not talking about having disposable morals or ethics, but I am talking about what is acceptable in society, what is accepted, in this case, in the sports realm, right? So we're talking about what you can and can't do as a coach, what you can and can't do as a league, what you can and can't do, for example, in college football, which is a conversation that we're having on the daily, and how that's going to look. And we're also certain right now that the NIL and transfer portal and the professionalization of collegiate athletics is going to be the ruination of the sport. And to some degree, it certainly will be different, and some of those differences will not be good. There will be things we just don't like about it, but there will be others that a few years removed and refined perhaps that we will say, yeah, that's good. I'm glad they did that. That ended up being more equitable for all involved, or it's a better deal for the fan, or it's a better deal for the player or the university, whatever it might be, in due time. And I'm reminded of that every time I read a story about performance-enhancing drugs and the way we viewed them, certainly for baseball many moons ago, and the way we thought about how it was that baseball needed to handle the numbers of the game. And that's the sport that is hyper-focused on numbers more than others. But I lamented all those years ago, Tom, that baseball was the only sport, it seemed professionally to me, that actually felt the wrath of the average sports fan and certainly the working media every time a big-name player got in trouble for using steroids. If it was a pitcher or a hitter, it didn't matter. We quickly cast aside this as a baseball problem. We said that this league has no rules with teeth. They better get a hold of it. The sport is being ruined. Some of that I agree with. Some of those records from that era, I still think, are poppycock nonsense. It's not as impressive as what, say, if you want to, Rod Carew did in his career, or whatever player you want to name. But I always thought, man, it's weird to me. People get angry about baseball players using steroids, like personally angry. And we largely ignore that certainly almost 3/4 of NFL football players are using steroids, right? And occasionally one of them would be cited. You'd catch somebody, Sean Merriman. Remember when that happened? And he was having the tear of a career that he was having, where he looked like he was on the path to the Hall of Fame. We're like, well, he plays a little crazy and out of control. Maybe that's because he's hopped up on goofballs. And it turned out he was hopped up on goofballs. But these days, NFL players get popped for performance-enhancing drugs all the time. And I mean star players all over the place. And we've had another instance of that, and that is DeAndre Hopkins, who you would argue is certainly, and has been anyhow in recent years, the best player, or the best player at his position anyhow, in the NFL. He's now been suspended 6 games for violating the NFL's policy on performance-enhancing drugs. And all of the conversation surrounding that was not about DeAndre Hopkins' decision to use performance-enhancing drugs, of which he said, I was confused and I was shocked. I'm mindful of what I put in my body, and I've always taken a holistic approach. I'm working with my team to investigate how in the world this could have happened. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar for what a lot of people say about that. I don't think people accidentally take performance-enhancing drugs. I don't think it happens. I think that especially if you're mindful of what you're putting in your body, you don't accidentally take performance-enhancing drugs. So I'm going to summarily dismiss his claims that it was an accident. I could be wrong. But nobody yesterday in talking about this said, well, does the team have recourse? Could they recoup some of the money? What should you do? This is going to cost them dearly. Likely the 6 games he misses will lead to them perhaps missing the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody said that. They said, what should Arizona do in terms of getting by those 6 games until they get him back? Because clearly he is the offense, and they better find a way to survive in his absence. There was no shaming, is my point. Nobody cares anymore that professional athletes use performance-enhancing drugs. And I think guys like this and others, every time they test positive and we see a headline now, we've gone from, oh, it's a dark day, what a terrible moment for him, this will cast a shadow on his career, to, well, what's the team going to do to survive until that guy gets back? Because, man, he's the best.
Yeah, I think part of it is my generation is starting to rise in the media ranks, and we're very jaded as a people, like, sports fans, because we grew up in the era of collective bargaining issues. When I was 9, baseball had a strike, and my dad was off baseball for an extended period of time at that point. Free agency is something that happened before, we were in middle school. And now, obviously, where college football is going as well, it's like the final thing to fall, even though that was a farce the whole time. The players weren't paid. I don't know. I just think in yesteryear and in generations gone by, football players were considered warriors and baseball players gentlemen. And that's stupid. Like that's to assume that a football player is no more or less culture than a baseball player is just kind of dumb on its face. But because of the nature of the sport, I think that people made those assumptions. I think now, again, for those people that are rising up in the media ranks as people in analytics or whatever, it's all about how many wins can you get. You're used to mercenaryism as a sports fan. And when a player is caught and popped for PEDs, you joked about this for years on the show. It's like, good. I want them to be trying to get an edge and get around the corner before somebody else can. That means they're trying. That means they care. It was tongue-in-cheek, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true as well, especially in the NFL where everything is so temporary for your career. I just think that perhaps my generation, which is now starting to get old, is more apt to allow for that discussion and talk about things like wins and losses rather than the morality of anything that's happened.
Also, I think, and I'm not advocating for anybody out there playing high school football or whatever it might be, whatever the sport, to use illegal drugs to get stronger and faster. I'm not saying that. But I think surrounding the discussion of steroids after the steroid era in baseball, and then later on learning of the cautionary tales of NFL players back in the 70s and early 80s that were using large amounts of, say, Dianabol or Deca or whatever it was at that time. Those are the steroids I remember. I remember those being in conversation and circulation, period. I remember seeing those at the local gym that I worked out at when I was in high school. I knew people who were on those drugs. Years later, you learn that an excess use of those drugs could enlarge your heart, could lead to a premature death and other health issues, obviously. But as advancements in medical science occurred, we now downright see aging clinics that use the very things that are banned by these professional leagues. Because under the guidance of a doctor who monitors blood pressure, heart rate, all that other stuff, we're told they can be used functionally without serious long-term effects if, again, prescribed by a doctor. And I think those clinics and the rise of those clinics and really the perfection of how to use those and how to cycle those led people to think, I'm sure it's not a great thing, but it's probably not nearly as disastrous as we once thought it to be when they were getting those illegally off the street and not being monitored by doctors.
Yeah, I say this with a little bit of pause, given maybe some people listening might bristle, but it also has to do with the Russians. And here's what I mean: the Soviet Union and doping was a huge deal.
Still is.
But I mean, of course it is. That they're the ROC and not the Russian nation. They can't compete in the Olympics as such. But it was such a big deal, and it was painted. I mean, look at Rocky IV. You've got like evil, bleach blonde haired, roid using oaf over here, even though that dude actually has a PhD in chemistry. And then you've got little old Rocky here. Like, we fancied ourselves as the clean, and yet just Sly Stallone is on every drug known to man between Rocky II and Rocky III. Look at the transformation in his body between those two movies.
Sure.
And yet we fancied ourselves doing things the right way as a culture. And I think, honestly, I know this is a big picture, but the evil people, the enemies, the Soviets, were the dopers on the eastern side of the wall all the way through to Moscow. That's what they were. And Americans did things the right way. They ate their vegetables. They, cracked some eggs, put them in a glass and chugged them down. And that's what they did. They lifted weights. Well, I think that bled over into the 90s steroid discussion as well, because there's two things going on. There's disingenuousness of the players, which nobody likes. Nobody likes a liar, especially when they're treating you like you're stupid. But then there's a hangover, too, of what did PEDs actually mean in the sporting conversation? Like in mainstream sports, it was the bad guys use them, the good guys don't. I'm not trying to say that good guys use steroids now. All I'm saying is I think that influenced how the discussion went and the vitriol that was felt specifically for baseball players, because even in the late 90s, they were the most famous among us, especially after the home run chase of 1998.
Yeah, the lines got blurred. More and more good guys, quote unquote good guys, began getting popped. And that led people to say, well, wait a minute. My presumption is that Jose Canseco, of course, is a steroid user. Look at him. He's a scumbag, because this guy had all kinds of transgressions off the field. So you could easily say it's applicable to a guy like that who gets in trouble in his private life and gets in trouble in his romantic life. He gets in trouble at the bar. He gets, all these, you'd be like, well, he's a troublemaker. Of course he's using. I mean, look at him. But then more and more guys, guys that you thought, oh, no, not him. He seems like such a good guy. I've never heard a peep or a bad word about that guy. And so all of a sudden, people began to go, well, maybe. And then, of course, there is the case of Lance Armstrong, who an entire nation or world got behind to celebrate all that he was doing, only to find out that while those things were still a great thing to do, meaning save millions of people's lives through research and funding of cancer, he lied about all of why he was doing that and how he was doing that and how he was achieving the success that he was achieving repeatedly, not only to government agencies, to law enforcement, to the league in which he raced under and the banner in which he raced under, of course, the nation that he raced under, and all those who paid him handsomely to do so. And we went, well, now what do we do? This is a guy who nearly died, and I love him, and he's winning. Yeah, so all of that happened. Finally, to put a ribbon on this, I would say that the worst thing that came out of the Rockies was that I did the very thing you just described. I took 2 eggs, cracked them into a glass, and drank them before a morning jog because I thought I'd be cool and train like Rocky. and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever done, and I've never done it again. And people still do it, I hear, but damn it, man, I should have never done that. It makes me want to projectile vomit talking about it.
Let's get 1,000 likes underneath this video, and Jeff will chug for the first time since he was in high school a glass with a couple of eggs. 1,000 likes. Come on, you can do it.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Two people are dead and 2 critically injured after a plane crash in Calhoun yesterday afternoon around 4:40 Central Time. A Cessna 172 4-seater plane took off from the Calhoun County Airport. 4 men from the Calhoun County area were on board when, for an unknown reason, the plane crashed. Steve Mears Jr. and Lieutenant William Brandy McCrone died in that crash. Lieutenant McCrone worked as a school resource officer and helicopter pilot for the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office. The 2 other men were life-flighted in critical condition to TMH. The FAA is now investigating to determine the cause of the crash. The Starbucks, located on North Monroe Street at John Knox Road, is now the first unionized store in Florida. The National Labor Relations Board counted a 16-1 vote from the employees. This is the 55th Starbucks to win a union vote in the country. A total of 63 locations have had their votes counted. The union says more than 240 stores have filed union petitions across 33 states. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Slight chance for scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mainly sunny. High of 90, winds out of the southwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear again tonight, lows around 68. Mainly sunny tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 90. Chance for scattered storms Friday and Saturday, 86. Friday, 87. Saturday. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 84.
Did you know metal roofs' survivability far exceeds that of traditional shingle roofs? It's time to consider a metal roof from Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee. We provide the best quality, least expensive material and accessories in the area, as well as material pickup and delivery. Our painted panels qualify for the City of Tallahassee's low-interest Energy Star loan program also. And don't forget about our veteran and law enforcement discount. Give Metal Roofing Sales a call today at 536-9123, 536-9123.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Here's what you missed on the Greg Tish Show.
A woman only identified as Mrs. Wong posted on Chinese social media she had gotten locked down after a first blind date. She discovered that their date's community had gone into swift lockdown after visiting his house for a meal.
This absolutely has to become a romantic comedy. Lockdown Love. He was looking for Mrs. Right, but he found Mrs. Wong.
Lockdown. Starring Matthew McConaughey. All right.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
At the time that we're talking about this, a rather sizable game, Tommy, looms large for our beloved Tampa Bay Lightning. And this is not a segment about the Tampa Bay Lightning, but rather the psyche of fans, the psyche of players, and the amazing ability to either compartmentalize and or recognize as fans, like we do with all sports, when the moment is at hand. And what I mean by that is, so when you and I, we're Bucs fans, we're watching the Bucs go on their Super Bowl run with Tom Brady. there was the matter of having to bounce back from a humiliating loss in the regular season, right? And the timing of them trying to figure out their offense. And we would constantly talk, you and I would, about like, are they going to get this figured out? Because it's pretty clear that they're experimenting. It's pretty clear they're figuring out what elements of what he wants to do and what elements of what BA wants to do and what elements of what, this offense works with this mind and all of that. Are they going to get this worked out in time? And it turned out, of course, they made some fundamental changes that had to do with throwing on first down more frequently, first of all, and down the field. And the next thing you know, it opened everything up and the Bucs went crazy and went on the run and they won the Super Bowl. But we knew it was culminating in that moment. And that turned out to be a good moment because you recognized the signs. We both did and went, this could be it. This could be it. They may be primed. I also do the same with all of my teams when the time is nigh, when it's at hand to go the wrong way. And I thought of you last night when I texted you, and I only texted the one. When the blowout was afoot, and you get 5 minutes into a game, and you've got a 5-minute major and a game misconduct going against Toronto, and a power play that has been red hot at the end of the regular season, only to watch a power play that was as poorly put together as maybe I've ever seen. Maybe. I mean, that was 5 minutes of embarrassment. Slow, lethargic, odd man rushes, scoring opportunities galore for the team, not on the power play, all of that. And I'm sitting there thinking, they just weren't ready to play. That's a desperate Toronto team. They're at home. This is the one Toronto has to get. They have a lot of festering doubt because they haven't done a damn thing since 2004, and everybody's called them chokers and all that stuff. So they're coming out hot. We're not meeting the intensity. But somewhere along the way, tell me it didn't creep into the back of your mind that maybe time is up.
Yeah, I mean, so there's nothing we could have done, the Lightning that is, on Monday night that would have fundamentally changed, my belief in them being able to win the series. This is as close as they could have come, though. I didn't realize they could come this close. So they didn't have anything for Toronto, period. What's funny is, and this is a deep cut Lightning joke, but Sheldon Keefe was drafted by the Lightning in the late 90s. He played on like a 19-win Lightning team. In an 82-game season, they won 19 games. That's what I grew up watching. That's why I had playoff teams when I was a kid, because Lightning were just never going to go. The power play that last night, until like the fifth one of the game, looked just like the power plays that Sheldon Keefe was on in like 1999. It was just terrible. But the thing is, it's such a house money feeling that like I was pissed last night, but I also read the room. Like maybe at 19 years old or 21 years old for me, I wouldn't have reacted as calmly. But I'm like, if they take it, so be it. We played a lot of freaking hockey. These guys are beat up. But if they can gut it out, that would be even funnier because the way this game one sets the stage, the expectations for Toronto, they've been fooled again if Tampa comes back and wins the series. So that's kind of funny too. I'm not trying to be a defeatist. I'm not trying to be a loser. I want to win 3 in a row. It hasn't been done since the Islanders did it in the 80s.
And it's never been done in the salary cap era.
No, never been sniffed. And if you combine the 62 wins Tampa Bay Lightning from 3 seasons ago to now, this is the best 3-year run, even before you get to this recent season, this current season, that any team has ever been on in the salary cap era. It just is. Point of fact. So, if it ends here, it ends here. But I'm not trying to be a defeatist. I also want to win the whole damn thing. It's just when you've won 2 in a row, you have a little bit more perspective. You are afforded the luxury of perspective when things go wrong.
Yeah, but and back to my original point with this, and yeah, I mean, we're both Lightning fans and we want to win. It'd be great. It'd be something historical, and we're already going to remember the run that they've been on forevermore, and appreciate it, because as you get older, you do tend to appreciate these things. You realize how fleeting they can be and how they may never come back around in your lifetime. You'll never, you don't know. I get all that, but it's about fandom. It's about that maturity of which you speak, and also the recognition. There are moments when you recognize that the gig is up. And I've had the good fortune and the sad to watch when it's on the rise for the Seminole football program and when it's about to be a precipitous drop. And I don't know what this is for the Lightning. It stands to reason that they're tired and older, and there are hungrier teams that have been bounced in the first round that are tired of it. In fact, we'd be facing back-to-back teams that are tired of it if we win, because Toronto is damn tired of hearing about it, and the propensity to choke in Toronto is legendary at this point. And then, of course, if you go on to face the Panthers, who are younger, faster, and hungrier than you, they're tired of hearing about it. And so they very well be the team to knock you out. It could be. We don't know. But what I do know is that whenever it is, it's funny, as you get older and wiser and you view sports through that lens of perspective that is only gained through the years of seeing the successes and failures as time goes by, you're better able to say, oh, I see a sign. Okay. You can have one of these, but if in game 2 we see something similar, I think we know we can probably call it a day. Begin to slowly golf clap for what was and prepare ourselves for some changes. That's probably where we'll be.
Yeah, I think so. In the Lightning specific case, I'll get to a Florida State example in a moment, but in the Lightning specific case, even if they got bounced in, say, 5 games this series, let's just say it was like that, I'm rooting for the long break. Good. Heal your bodies. I mean, there is no hyperbaric chamber in the world that can fix the problems that they must have with the wear and tear of playing, 200-odd NHL games and, 25, 30 of which are at the playoff level. I mean, or more than that, actually. It's probably like 50. So, if that happens, I wouldn't write them off just yet, but I could see it going either way. They could also win, game 2, like 3-2, and then it's like, haha, they split the series in Toronto. Now you're screwed. And then we flip the feeling completely. But I go back to a Florida State example, which was something that you saw before anybody else. It is the first half, maybe the first quarter of the Louisville game in 2016 when you realized that this is never going to be the same again under Jimbo. And I say that it was in 2016 because we all made the mistake. I'll speak for me only. I made the mistake in 2015 of when the college football playoff was going. I said, you know what? That's okay. We'll go get them next year. I kind of wish we were in it, but it's no big deal. We've been in the college football playoff for the national championship game the last 2 years. Regroup, go get them in 2016. Then when 2016 came, I realized, oh no, never wish for that. Don't ever wish for that again, because this thing is going down, and it hasn't stopped going down, we think, until recently. Maybe it's bottomed out. But that was an example where I knew it was fundamentally different than it was before. On the road at Louisville, noon kickoff, the Muhammad Ali Memorial game, and Lamar Jackson going crazy over us. We couldn't get through halfway through the second quarter before that game was completely over, and whatever Jimbo had built had officially crumbled. But that was the moment.
I would argue, and I maintain this point, that was the only time I saw a team or a collection of players to that level. I mean, it wasn't like that team was devoid of talent. It was the only time I can remember watching with the level of helplessness, understanding that if they decide to, Louisville can score 100 points in this game. And I began to think about history. I began to think about Cumberland getting beat 222-0. I began to think about teams that have been on the wrong end of historic ass beatings and how frequently those are brought up forevermore, especially if they're to a team that you have to play annually. And I was watching that going, man, you better do something. You better do something to speed this clock up. You better run the ball into the middle of the line here and find a way to get that clock moving, Jimbo, because winning is out the door. But losing in a manner that will never be lived down is still on the table. Yeah. And yes, the reverberations, and I had predicted that going into the game. I will pat myself on the back there. I know you alluded to it. I just had a bad feeling. The vibe around that team and the program was going south in a hurry. And we realized on that day that he had lost the team forevermore.
But what's crazy is, we had the hype for the next year for the Alabama game. And actually, before Francois got hurt, played Alabama as tough as could be expected.
Yeah, and they got screwed in the first half on the call. And
the pass interference. That was ridiculous. But, I mean, that team had really good players. Dalvin Cook, for example, was on that team. Derwin James was on that football team. And yet they were that helpless. That's the crazy part looking back at that. Like, if that happened to us now, it has. Willie's first year against Clemson in Tallahassee, I think it was no score after one quarter. It might have been 3-0, something like that. After that, it could have been 85-0 if they willed it to be that way. That's not a surprise given that the roster was just completely devoid of anything at all. You see that now, the reverberations of that with the draft. That's a discussion we've had. Only one dude, and he was a transfer, got picked this year in the NFL draft. But that group in 2016 wasn't like this. We would take that roster if you're just talking a blind test of talent. And he said,
sure.
you have this much talent. You'd say, sign me up. Where do I sign? And yet, that group was the one that could have had 100 scored on them. You talk about dysfunction. That's not about athleticism at all. That was about everything else.
Yeah, and thus it was written, right? You knew in that moment it's over, and I was going on the air at that time saying, well, the sooner we get to the getting here, I mean, I don't think you can recover from this. I don't know how you do it. I mean, you had to play the game. You had to have daily conversations, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I don't think he can get this back. The genie's out of the bottle. I don't know that you can get this done. And yet here we sit now, rather hopeful, recognizing that it's arduous and that maybe we're on the precipice of something good. Maybe. That is the eternal hope, right? That's what everybody thinks they're watching, that there are incremental gains and improvements in recruiting and a passionate staff that works very hard. They have a lot going against them, but there is still a little bit of time to show that big step forward. I have yet to recognize the proverbial sign of which I speak, that we may be watching tonight when the Lightning play Toronto, and that we certainly were watching in 2016 against Louisville. I don't know that I've seen the thing that one way or the other tells me he's done, this isn't going to work, or there it is, we're going to be okay. It's a weird place to be as a fan who pays close attention and does have the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of experience and the benefit of the years of watching passionately my favorite teams play.
Yeah, it's kind of like the conversation we had yesterday on Headlines, which was, talking about how many players, it was a good question, how many players in this offense will be draftable? Like, oh my God, you couldn't get to 4? Like, it's hard to get to 4.
Did we get to 3?
We might have. I think if we included Duffy as a potential draftable quarterback in 3-4 years' time. But that's where you are. And to me, if you put it in those terms, just talking about the talent level on offense, that takes me back probably to like 2008 or 2009 Florida State levels. Like, actually, probably not even 2009. That offense went up and down the field. They just couldn't get a stop that year.
Right.
So it's probably 2007 or 2008 Florida State offense when you're talking about talent top to bottom. But the feather that the coaching staff has in their cap that gives me a little bit more hope is they're finding ways to get into the upper 20s and lower 30s without talent. So it's just amazing that you're able to do that. And Jordan, don't get me wrong, he's very talented at what he does. It's a very specific thing, but they find ways to make it work. They get the most out of this thing. They draw blood from a stone. I believe you said that in the fall quite a few times. It's just a question of, can you do it enough to get real dudes in here that will allow you to have the moment that you're speaking of where you say, okay, they've got 2 dudes at receiver. They've got 2 dudes on the offensive line. They've got 3 guys in the offensive backfield playing running back in different situations. And they've got a quarterback who's not that bad either. And guess what? They've got at least 1 tight end. Like, even still, in the grand scheme of comparing that kind of Florida State offensive roster to Alabama's, you're still at a huge disadvantage, but you're light years ahead of where you are right now. There is a big middle ground to get to before you take that huge step forward.
Talk about humbling, and we've already been humbled every which way to Sunday, and I'm tired of being humbled. I'm ready to be over the top braggadocious at some point. But in the interim, when you watch Georgia have 15 players get drafted, a modern record, you say, okay, if the goal is to compete for a national title, we are a million miles away from doing something like that. And evidence of that is right there, because that's what you would need to compete, something akin to that with that team. Hell, mighty Alabama, filled with NFL players, basically couldn't compete with that when Georgia righted the ship after the SEC championship game and went, okay, not again. Here's how this is going to go. It was one of the only times in the last 10 years that I've watched a college football game and thought definitively. Now, that Clemson team, the elite Clemson team that beat Alabama, it was pretty close. But that was the only time that I looked out on the field and thought, oh, Georgia's better. They're better. They're bigger. They're faster. They're stronger. They're better. This isn't a fluke. They're better.
Yeah, and that's the trailing effect. I recall when they had gotten Fields. I mean, this is, I guess, 4 recruiting classes ago. My brother-in-law is a diehard Georgia fan. He was in Indianapolis for that game. He, like many others, I think, were weeping for joy when it was over, that they finally, reached the top of the mountain after 40 years. I said, get used to winning, because those recruiting classes they stacked up years ago were of the caliber that you could beat Alabama and be better than Alabama. You just needed to stop second-guessing yourself, maybe find the right quarterback, and not get unlucky that Tua comes off the bench in a few national championships to go and just lights up the whole room. Because if not for that, they would have arrived a little bit earlier to the conversation. But that's the deal. Kirby Smart was being second-guessed, and there were graphics being put up likening him to Mark Richt, and a lot of the numbers were very, very similar through 40 games, through 50 games.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. But it's a lead effect of 4 and 5 years of program building. We haven't reached one of those years in Tallahassee. Now, the transfer portal can close the gap a little bit quicker in the way it's operating right now. But, I mean, to get to that place, I'm not trying to tell you it's guaranteed at least another 4 or 5 years, because maybe conference realignment happens and we have more money in the coffers here. But we haven't had that first season yet that Kirby had. Maybe 8 wins or 9 wins puts us in a place where we can start to have that conversation.
Well, and a real good example to put a ribbon on this of programs that have it the way that Georgia has it, and it's precious few. It's Alabama, it's Georgia. I don't know if anybody else does right now. Maybe Ohio State, because I think Ohio State will vie for the national championship this year. I think if you look at some of the odds, and I've been doing that this week for College Sportsbook, you can get Ohio State at plus 500 if you like them to win the national championship. A few weeks back, you could get them at plus 800, and I think it's a viable gig because they changed out their defensive coordinator, which was important, and they brought Jim Noles in from Oklahoma State, and that's a good hire because their problem last year is they were 9th in the conference on defense. In the conference, that's not who Ohio State is, and you can bet Ryan Day's angry. And so you'll see this will be a fun little thing, exercise for all of us. But I want to go back to something. Michigan won the Big Ten last year. Finally, right? They finally did. If you look at that Michigan team and you go through what they've lost, both their offensive and defensive coordinator, but go back to the fact that they lose 8 starters on defense. They lost Ojobu, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Ross, Brad Hawkins, Daxton Hill, Vincent Gray, 2 defensive tackles. Guess what? They're going to suck. They're not going to be any good. They don't have the sustained recruiting success that you're referencing that Georgia has or Alabama has to endure the kind of losses that they suffered through this past year. They will take a huge step back. They're going to go 8-4. They're going to maybe 9-3 if the ball bounces their way, but they're not a contender in my mind. So you can tell what side of the fence I'm on as far as bets go. They're not a contender to win the Big Ten again. It takes that much sustained success in recruiting to endure losses to the NFL like the ones they just endured. We think Georgia, with losing 15 guys to the league, probably going to still be pretty damn good this year. That tells you a lot about what you're talking about and how far Florida State has to go. It's not cruel to bring it up. It's just a sober reminder that we're waiting for that next step. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Online at northfloridapayroll.com.
Refreshing and simple. 2 words you don't hear many people use to describe their experience going through the process of getting a home loan. That's what puts the Hamilton Home Loans experience in a category all their own. If you're buying or refinancing a home, Hamilton Home Loans will provide a personalized mortgage experience that is dedicated to making the process refreshingly simple. It all begins with an initial consultation with an experienced Hamilton Home Loans advisor to find out what your goals are in order to find the right mortgage to suit your specific needs. Then, your personal home loan advisor will take you through all the steps from application, underwriting, approval, and closing, all the way to the front steps of your new home. Once you've experienced the Hamilton Home Loan process, you can be a customer for life and never have to pay lender fees again. For first responders, nurses, physician assistants, teachers, active and retired military, ask about the Hamilton for Heroes program. Personalized attention with your needs put first. Now that's refreshingly simple. Find out more at HamiltonHomeLoans.com. That's HamiltonHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 200719.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Here we go. It's time for a chance to grow your green and win $1,000 cash plus a shot at a $10,000 grand prize. Here's your new keyword.
Million. M-I-L-L-I-O-N. Million. M-I-L-L-I-O-N. Million.
Enter that word now at realtalk93.com and you might be the next winner.
Holy cow, thank you. Oh my God.
I just won $1,000.
Hey, this is Monica. Hey, this is Elizabeth, and I just won $1,000. All right.
More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next after this town hall news break on WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Ukraine's president has said he would not accept a deal with Moscow, which would allow Russian troops to remain in occupied territory.
Speaking at the CEO Council Summit, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian troops are working to expel Russian troops from its territory, and Ukraine would eventually restore its territorial integrity. Zelensky said he would not accept a ceasefire deal that would keep Russian forces in their current positions. The president said the idea of what he called a frozen conflict was not negotiable for Ukraine. Zelensky emphasized that Russian President Vladimir Putin must agree to meet him to negotiate any deal to end the fighting. I'm Karen Chamas.
Also at townhall.com, President Biden taking a harder-edged approach to talking about the economy.
In a Wednesday speech, the president noted that the government will pay down the national debt this quarter for the first time in 6 years, and he used the occasion to criticize Republicans.
For all the talk the Republicans make about deficits, it didn't happen a single quarter under my predecessor.
Mr. Biden is adopting a sharper tone as Americans face the highest inflation in 4 decades, and as he faces low approval ratings for his handling of the economy. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Also with the White House, the president welcomed more than 600 U.S. Olympians and Paralympians from the 2020 and 22 Winter and Summer Games. He said the athletes helped unite the country.
We've been a very divided nation philosophically of late, but you brought us together. For no matter the divisions, when we see you compete, we feel a common pride in those 3 letters, USA.
The Fed announcement on raising interest rates is upcoming. Ahead of that announcement, stocks are higher. The Dow up 174 points, the NASDAQ 50 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 3388 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 3388. Enjoy.
Now go call Seminole Glass. They'll get on the road and get it done fast.
Your local family-owned glass company, serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. At Seminole Auto Glass, we care about your safety. Insurance will send you wherever it benefits them, not the quality of service. There's a difference in auto glass companies. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass.
They handle any kind of broken glass, and you know who they are.
Better call Seminole.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV on a Ballsmick Wednesday. Yes, this from my house, Tom from his, but nonetheless, we soldier on. Pre-recorded for today. No show tomorrow. Back with you on a Libations Friday. Looking forward to it. If you're watching on Warchant TV, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, if you're listening on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, thanks for the support, and we appreciate it very much so. Okay, so Tom, something we've spoken of even last hour and throughout the course of the week, we wondered on yesterday's Seminole Headlines, for example, where you sat in for Corey Clark. I can report Corey is doing better, by the way, for those that reached out and asked. He's feeling better, just a stomach ailment, something maybe temporary. I don't know. Don't want to explore that too much, but people did ask, and I'm glad that they did. We love Corey. He's doing better. All right. On that show yesterday, a lot of the questions that came in had a lot to do with when is the madness going to stop? We didn't need headlines for that. We've been talking about that as well. It's on the mind of everybody who cares about the sport. Is anything going to be done anytime soon? And we cited an article about Ross Dellinger on Sports Illustrated. And there's another one that has come out in which it's, well, I can only tell you, catching the attention of many in the NIL world, okay? And that is that big money donors have certainly stepped out of the shadows to create, as he notes, chaotic NIL markets. And less than a year into the NIL era, officials say the college sports landscape is dramatically shifting to a place, and not a good one by that measure, I should say, that is booster driven. And it's one that kind of plagued college athletics over a year ago. And they got quotes from Tommy Bowden and others and people like that. But what they're saying now is that it looks like there is a group, and I think, Tom, you just asked it during the break, what does that group even look like, that is efforting new, quote, college leaders plan a crackdown on NIL collectives. That, according to Sports Illustrated. Officials are beginning to explore guidelines that reinforce that boosters are in every way prohibited from recruiting. Schools not monitoring donors are going to be sanctioned for violating existing bylaws, according to Ross Dellinger. So you surprised to hear that?
Well, look, the question I asked yesterday on Headlines was, what's the deterrent? Like, what could it be? Is it a reduction of scholarships or roster spots? And do we have to change the terminology to roster spots instead of scholarships in the era of NIL? So I think it's great that there's a body out there that is so soon ready to punch back and say, this is ridiculous. This cannot stand, man. But we already know that the NCAA has a sordid history of investigating certain over the boundary line stepping by Miami, North Carolina, other institutions. LSU is a recent example. So is Kansas now. All these programs, and there are woefully different and a lack of consistent penalties being handed down to these universities. So if they're not good at it when it comes to recruiting violations, what makes me believe that they're going to be good at it when it comes to NIL violations or pay for play or inducement or whatever terms that you want to bring to the forefront? How can they prove it, and what's the deterrent? Those are the two important things here. It's nice to read a headline that says people want to crack down on something, but the NCAA has said that the integrity of the game matters for generations. And then North Carolina creates a class out of thin air, and they don't do anything with it because by the NCAA's own definition and standard, it was available to regular students. So you can't only punish athletes or athletic departments. So I don't believe that they have teeth until I see that they have teeth. It's nice that they want to do something about it, but I don't know what the hell they can do and what they have the resources to investigate and find out.
So an excerpt from this that I find fascinating, and I agree with you. I'll look at this upon it with a jaundiced eye, as we all will. But I think this is interesting. You have them citing existing laws, if you will, existing bylaws within the NCAA. And you might say to yourself, well, the NCAA is not enforcing anything anyhow. Well, basically in an era of athletes' rights emerging under what we consider, and it's written this way in the article, a toothless NCAA, these groups, and I'm not casting aspersions on any of the groups because I don't know, how our own third-party entities are operating or anybody else's for that matter. I'm not behind the scenes. We've certainly had the good fortune of speaking to Rising Spear and others about what the rules are and what they can and can't do and how they're going about trying to help the university on the up and up, to be sure. But we talk about this in that they don't fear these groups, many of whom now are publicly negotiating for players through the press. They don't fear repercussions, and they often flaunt their coups, if you will. And so if something's not done, most fear that it's going to get worse. I'll read a quote from the article. What I've learned is everybody is doing this now, says Hugh Hathcock, an auto industry innovator who's worth $500 million and recently started a collective at the University of Florida. Gator Guard, and he donated $1 million of his own money. The landscape is, if we don't get the money, we're going to lose players to those who will. No matter how well a kid likes the University of Florida, if a school comes in at the last minute and says, we'll pay you an extra $100,000, and we've given them $10,000, well, they're gone. They're going to leave. And that's what we've all feared at Florida State, because there is somebody with more money all around us. And that guy cited the fact that if you're in the SEC, you're trying to compete with Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Good luck. $100,000, $200,000 isn't going to get it done. Amongst the 24 college sports stakeholders who spoke to Sports Illustrated over the last 6 months, there are more than half believe this is a chaotic market of cheating and do not think this is a great example of capitalism in the American way. Experts believe more than 100 collectives exist, popping up daily, and that basically it's a way for many of them to back their schools. It is boosters backing schools getting players, and we know this to be true, and that was always said to be illegal. So what I find fascinating is, while they can't be inducements and boosters cannot be reaching out on behalf of the university, well, who the hell? I'm not saying Rising Spear does this or any other collective, but what I am saying is most of them have the name that is associated with the mascot or nickname of their school. So, of course, they're operating, for lack of a better term, at the behest of the university. I mean, if you're called Rising Spear or Gator Club, who are you acting on behalf of? That's a guy who just admitted to it in the article. He gave $1 million of his own money to help get athletes for Florida. That's, by definition, they're in violation, and he's admitted to it in an article.
Well, I mean, that's what Matthew Quigley said in one of our interviews, like to think about Florida State in a way that, you chose it because it meant something to you. That's not the way a player, if you think that way, and that's how players are going to shoot over. Yeah, you're done. You're done. So let's operate in the real world and spare me the platitudes about what real capitalism looks like. Get the hell out of here with that. Whoever said that. This is not the spirit of true capitalism. Get the hell out of here with that. That's a ridiculous. That's over here. That's got nothing to do with what's going on right now. What's going on right now is something that I don't know that you can stop. I don't know that you can stop it, even when it comes down to classifying, players as employees and maybe doing away with scholarships or using the hybrid model I've been pushing for 10 years, which is they get to choose before they enter the university structure. You want to be an employee or do you want to be a student? One or the other. You can't be both. Nothing matters. At that point, you still make a choice, and a booster still, throws you money under the table like they were doing before NIL was legal. So I don't know how you stop this unless there's some sort of federal fine and I know it, everybody balks at regulations, especially on the federal level, because it adds bureaucracy and more red tape. But I think in this instance, this is so unregulated that you need some regulations and real penalties to scare people off that they won't act in these kinds of self-interests. Because if it's a slap on the wrist or they reduce your scholarship count by 1 or 2, who cares? Like, what is the deterrent is my biggest question when it comes to these types of agencies that are trying to stop NIL pay-for-play stuff.
Well, the biggest problem, though, is, again, I think one thing that is most assuredly true is the fact that this is not name, image, likeness. This is pay-for-play. That's what this is. That's all this is. And that was what they were seeking to avoid, and that's not what anybody was for, including those of us that wanted to see the athletes get paid. We wanted an athlete to be able to benefit from their jersey sales, from the images of them competing on the field that help sell tickets and make the university and athletic department millions of dollars. If you're a Heisman winner, like Jameis Winston was, like Tim Tebow was, I think I cited the numbers all those years ago. If you win the Heisman and a national championship, the next year you're worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $14 to $24 million for a university. And we thought in that moment, it seems a little absurd that he wouldn't get a piece of that for being, kind of directly responsible for it. And most people, most fair-minded people kind of said, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there are exceptions. There are players who transcend, who are doing things for the university, like make the coaches, athletic department, and university millions of dollars. They ought to be able to get a little bit more than they get now, which is a whole lot of nothing besides books and housing. So that is where we said, okay, name, image, likeness makes sense. Yes, if a guy can get out there and make some money off his jersey sale or off of supporting a car lot or whatever, we wanted that. But we didn't want pay for play in the way that it's really kind of worked out now on the heels of, okay, name, image, likeness. We just got to get it back to being name, image, likeness.
But even if you do that, and a guy needs to go and sign autographs at a car dealership or something like that, and you decide, as the car owner, dealer owner, to pay $50,000 for that one appearance, I mean, who's to stop you from doing that? That's the thing. Like, the only point that it becomes a problem is if you don't declare that on your taxes, because I don't see how you can stop somebody. If we were offered to go to a speaking engagement, perhaps one, where there's golfing involved, and I'm not saying this is happening because it ain't, but there was a check for $500,000 waiting on us to go do that for 2 days.
I would do it, Tom. I want you to know I would do that.
So would I, and what's illegal about that? You just got to declare it as income. That's the only thing you've got to do. Yep. So, I mean, how do you stop it? I don't know. Once that it was allowed for a player to receive beyond the stipend, the full cost of attendance, once you allow that to happen, and they just so happen to choose Southern Cal, like, okay, so they go show up at a comic book store near the Chinese theater, and there's $100,000 for them. I mean, what can you do about that? I don't know that any NCAA organization or whatever this organization is going to be has any teeth to stop anything about it. They can investigate it all they want, but what are you going to do? Take away scholarships? You need to see the penalties, and you have to have the manpower to do these investigations, because my guess is you probably need to be in about 25 college markets at once.
Yeah. I will end this by saying I've got a wonderful picture of you and me at the Chinese market in Los Angeles. At the or theater, I should say, the Chinese theater there.
Yeah. So I plead ignorance. I had no idea, because there was like Spider-Man out there and all.
Yeah, and there was also, remember that there were Star Wars people and everybody else too. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were taking pictures. And you're like, they want money. I'm like, what? I thought these were just freaks who were like out there, and you're like, no, they're doing this because they want you to tip them. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. And you would think going to Times Square, a bunch of my life, I would have gotten that concept of, we want a photo for some money. But thank you for teaching me that, because you're like, I got you. I got cash. Here you go. Get the hell out of
here. I like in that moment that I stepped up there. I mean, I was proud of myself. I was like, boy, Tom is like a little kid right now. He doesn't recognize that this is not innocent at all. They want money. He's just trading lightsabers with this guy, not realizing that dude wants some cash.
Well, you're like, go ahead. Go mess with this guy. I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let's go to In-N-Out Burger. You're like, no, you got to pay him. I'm like, pay him?
Yeah,
for what? I would have never done this.
And then we went to the In-N-Out Burger, where I witnessed the greatest weave in the history of weaves, and I will forever hold on to that. And I should have probably been shot by rights for that guy, because I was so obvious by the soda fountain. I was like, look at this wig. It's unbelievable. He looks like he's in the freaking mafia. It was great. Oh, man. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Capitol Circle Northeast, just north of Mahan Drive, or online at sellerstyle.com. For better style, quality, and design, go with Sellers in Tallahassee. Call 656-8453.
Having AC issues? Get it fixed now before that summertime heat has you singing the sweaty blues. E&B Heating and Air new customer diagnostic special for just $49.95. We sell the best and fix the rest. Call E&B Heating and Air today at 850-848-0187.
Hey, this is Dustin Rivest. During the pandemic, I noticed restaurants struggling with online ordering and watched as all the major third parties took advantage of our local restaurants and thought there must be a better way, which is why I created foodiestakeout.com. The unique thing about Foodies Takeout is that restaurants keep 100% of their order revenue versus splitting upwards of 30% with the third parties like Uber Eats and Bite Squad. At Foodies Takeout, you can find some of your favorite restaurants, such as Jerry's Midtown Cafe, Misty's Kitchen in Frenchtown, Casa Grande, and even El Jalisco. Or if you're on the north side of town, check out Horizons Bar and Grill. Why not give us a try? Head to foodiestakeout.com or text foodies to 230-9456, and I'll even give you 10% off your first meal. Supporting local restaurants has never been easier. Visit foodiestakeout.com.
I'm Paul.
I'm Paul.
I'm Paul.
Actually, all of us that have the privilege to work at Paul's Termite and Pest Control are Paul.
We're proud to call ourselves Paul because we work for a company that puts our customers first. We love what we do, and we love the principles our company demands.
Give our customers more than they expect and do everything within our power to keep them safe and comfortable.
We make a difference every day and know we protect the health of our thousands of North Florida customers that we are honored to call our friends.
And we're looking to bring a few more Pauls to our growing family. We have several openings now or in the very near future. Positions include termite, lawn, and general pest techs, route managers, inside sales, and customer service rep. Visit callpauls.com to see what's available and to find out how to apply. Every Pauls receives competitive pay with outstanding benefits, including health insurance, 401k, paid leave time, and holidays.
I'm Paul.
I'm Paul.
I'm Paul.
And you could be Paul, too, for the elimination of termites and other pests.
And a greener lawn, too. Call Paul's. We've been getting them all in North Florida for over 50 years.
The weather is unpredictable and can cause issues around your home. Weston Trawick provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
This is Dr. James Ryan Finn from Finn Chiropractic. In today's world, people are just stressed out. That could be causing subluxation of your spine. These misaligned vertebrae put pressure on the nerves and they shut your body down and it stops it from healing. So if you or a loved one are suffering from a condition with pain in your muscles, your tendons, or your joints, reach out to us at finnchiro.com and take advantage of our new patient special offer. That's FENNCHIRO.com, because your chiropractor loves you and there's nothing you can do about it.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
All right, since we're going to be absent on Thursday, we could not leave our friends in the lurch. If you look here on the feed that you're watching on Warchant TV, and even if you're just listening on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, we thank you for all of it. All the support is greatly appreciated. You'll see the people that are business partners with us. You can see in the corner where Orange Theory is. You can see Chad and Shannon, my dear friends at the legendary team that is Hamilton Home Loans. Chad and Shannon, obviously partnering up with the Jeff Cameron Show some time ago. You get the very best in home loans from them. But now it's time to solve for the future. Yay! And there it is up there on the screen, brought to you by ISF of Tallahassee. And I mention our friends at ISF all the time. Maybe you work in state government and you've got ideas, but you don't know how to implement those ideas. And listen, there are a lot of brilliant people that sit around every day thinking of better ways to improve processes and streamline workflows and all that stuff. And they understand the new technology, and they want to do what we all want to do, which is reduce costly inefficiencies and those kinds of things. That's where ISF comes into play. They're here in Tallahassee, but they've worked in 18 states for state and local agencies. They've served millions of citizens across the country, 40 years in business, and they help state governments solve the future using strategy, process, and technology. You probably want to know about their clients and their capabilities and their resources. If you want to know all of that, it's transparent right on their website. Go check it out today, isf.com. Read about the many things they've done over this long period of time of solving the future for their constituents and their clients and those who need the consulting services and expertise of ISF. And this is a simple one today. Again, in our absence, we thought we'd have a little fun. This is the easiest and straight to the point of solving for the future. Now, what I would tell you is it's probably not a good idea to smoke weed and drive fast. I think we all agree with that. Just not a good idea. Alabama and former All-American corner, newcomer Alabama, Eli Ricks, I should say, booked on charges of speeding, driving without insurance, and possessing marijuana Sunday evening. He transferred to Alabama from LSU in the offseason. He was arrested by the Mississippi Highway Patrol and booked at 5:15 p.m. So, Tom, I'm going to tell you here, if you are a player, Eli Ricks is, and you have to drive in the Deep South, and in particular into Mississippi, you ought not do so without insurance. You ought not do so at rapid speeds. And you really ought not do so without insurance and rapid speeds while high and in possession of marijuana. I'm going to solve for the future. Don't do any of those things. Don't have the weed in the car. Don't get high and drive fast. Don't drive around, period, much less from Alabama into Mississippi without insurance. And don't do so, well, maybe a little hopped up on goofballs. There you go. I've made it really easy. And you might say, why would you choose such a silly, obvious thing, Jeff? Because once a week on this show, if I wanted to, and I don't because it's old hat by now, this story exists. There is an athlete somewhere dying to jump in his car or her car to be very high while doing so, and then deciding to drive without their lights on, or no license plate, or at great speeds doing both, all the while, windows down, music blaring, high as a kite, wondering how it is they're now in jail. It was so preventable on so many levels, and there have been so many cautionary tales prior to this one. But guess what? I bet you next week I'm going to find another one because it's always happening, always happening. There you go.
The most corporate-friendly solving the future I think I've ever heard, first of all, because it's talking about don't get on the weed and get behind the wheel. All right, ISF, I get down with that too. There you go. Don't do these things. But you know what? When you offer these cautionary tales, I hope at some point, and maybe on the chat, it's worth reviewing. I know you said that you're going to go back on Arbor Day and take
Arbor Day in particular, yeah.
Has there been somebody who listened to one of these cautionary tales and said, you know what, Campster's right, I need to stop doing that. I'm going to get caught one of these days. And then this is the reason that they stop, is because of one of the segments. I hope that's the case. I hope you've helped people with these cautionary tales from Nate Newton to this most recent example and everything in between, that maybe you were the reason that somebody is not in jail.
In yesteryear, the early days of the show, we invented the Jeff Cameron Show PR firm to deal with these sorts of things. And really the storyline was typically that players of every walk of life, from the city, from the country, black, white, male, female, didn't matter. Athletes in general, for whatever reason, maybe it's escapism, maybe it's the stress of constantly remaining fit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The vigilance gets to be too much. They're tired, they're beaten up, and they partake a little too much. And then generally speaking, when they got popped, they lied about it excessively. Usually the lies were absurd. They were over the top. It was somewhat fun to read the things that they had to say. But I also realized in that moment, they weren't going about it the right way, because people didn't find their stories to be A, believable, or B, relatable. So what we said instead was, typically speaking, now listen, I'm not talking about the very over-the-top serious stuff in which people lose lives and all that other stuff. I'm just talking about these sorts of incidents where you go, probably could have been avoided there, that's not a good idea, etc. Was, don't lie about it afterwards, just say, here's what happened, I'm really regretful of it all, and I've learned the lesson, and we're not going to ever have this problem again. Instead of saying, those are my cousin's drugs, or I was on the Atkins diet. Don't do that. Don't do those things. Just say, okay, sorry. That was the easiest way. But now we've moved on from there, because I can't believe that this is in perpetuity a problem. It is the same arrest over and over and over again.
We knew him as Ron Trell, not Montrell. In fact, we just called him Trell. Like, I don't know, that's the guy who had the scooter. Like, I never took anybody's scooter. It was just Trell, this guy who was, where is he? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I never learned his last name. I'm sorry. I never learned his last name. Let's get deep real quick, though. If you could have solved your own future and told yourself something when you were 21 years old, we'll make it clean and clear, 21 years old, how would you solve your own future?
So I have thought about this. I've said on the show a lot of times, Tom, that I was incredibly late to any level of maturity. Like, I've certainly given you credit and acknowledged that when I met you, you were very young, and I've had fun watching you, grow and mature into the man that you are, and we're dear, dear friends. But I could recognize you were young. Even for as mature an old soul as you were, you would say things occasionally and I'd be like, okay. Or you would do something and I'd laugh and I'd be like, in 5 years, he's going to look back on that and laugh, or at least I will. But still, you were way ahead of the game. Way ahead of the game. Those were just the normal bumps and bruises of aging and you being in your early 20s or whatever. Me, I was incredibly immature. I just thought life was a party at all times, and I needed to be out and about enjoying said party at all times. And I'd be damned. Responsibilities were going to take a back burner in large part because I found a way to get things done no matter how disorganized I was. And I was able to escape being disorganized and unruly and all of those things and find a path to successes. But I don't know that if I went back and changed any of that, would I be here now doing the job that I've always loved, happily married to the woman that is the love of my life with 2 beautiful kids? Because if that was going to change it, then I wouldn't go back and change anything, and I would endure all the hardships that I did for being wildly immature and disorganized. And then at the same time, I want to tell people all the time that I see that I love and care for, or that I think are just decent people when they're 22, 23, and they're saying and doing dumb things like, don't do that. Don't do that. I want to go over and put my arm around him and say, you're going to really regret saying that. You're going to wish you had never done that. And the oddity is that there is one specific thing. There are several actions in my really early days that I regret. I was one of those kids that toilet papered houses around the neighborhood because I thought it was a funny thing to do with my brother. And we would sit in the bushes and giggle as the dad came out angrily and saw all the toilet paper and stuff like that, right? No, I wouldn't undo that. That's just simply sort of fun, childish nefariousness. I once insulted a girl at a party when I was 22 years old, standing by a keg. And in doing so, I still regret it. I still wish I hadn't said the words that I said. And it was nothing over the top like that you would be like, oh, well, that makes me recoil. I can't believe you said that. But it was rather kind of a deep cut. It was going for the soul, because she said a few things over the course of the evening while we were sitting and talking that made me bristle, that bothered me a little bit. And I had just enough liquid courage in the moment to decide I'm going to make this uncomfortable and say this, and this about her judgment. And in my judgment, I did exactly what I was saying she was guilty of.
And as we're muted, I guess it's my turn then. At 20, 21 years old, I'd say, it's time to play more Halo, not less Halo. Play more Halo. That's the right thing to do, because guess what? It solves all your problems.
Halo is, see, once again, it speaks to your maturity that you could say the worst I did was play too much Halo, and I say you should have played more Halo.
Yeah, no, there are plenty of things to have done differently. But one thing I never would have done differently, I had a decision to make when I was 19 years old. And Hurricane Katrina had just happened in Louisiana, and they were taking kids around the country that were enrolled at, Loyola or Tulane or wherever, like all the way around there, and helping them out. And I was actually going to, I don't know that I ever told this part about it on the air, but I was going to transfer to the University of Florida. Even though I grew up in Noles, I was going to go to Gainesville. I had some friends there, and that was what I had in my head as a backup plan if Iona didn't work, and I didn't like Iona. And they told me I was going to get in, and then Hurricane Katrina, messed up the admissions process. And my parents said, well, if you wait it out, you either might like Iona or you might just want to go and you'll be in Gainesville in the summer. I was like, okay, all right, that sounds good. And it just festered with me. I was like, I got to get out of here now, man. I can't do another semester of this. So I called Tallahassee and I called Florida State and I gave them all the entry requirement stuff. And they said, you want to start in January? I said, is it possible? They said, oh, hell yeah, come on down here. We've got a spot for you. And the people on the phone could not have been more disparate in those situations. I was a number when I called down to Gainesville. I was a person when I called down to Tallahassee. So I don't know if that's the thing I'd redo, meaning I should do over and do differently. It's something I would definitely redo, coming down to Florida State. So it's not a solving the future. That's how I solved for my future back when I was 19 years old was I decided on Tallahassee instead of Gainesville, and it was the best choice I ever made.
Well, I would have spoken to the coach at East Tennessee State University and had him invest more in me. I think we both are happy with the way it ended up for both of us academically and otherwise. But that said, man, you solved for the future in a good way. Here I was insulting a girl at a keg party. That's cruel and unusual.
I did so much stuff that it would kill me to repeat. The one thing I'd say for anybody that ever considers going to Iona College and seeing Rick Pitino, don't or have a car because there's no way to get to the city. It's the dumbest thing. Like it's right there and you can't get there. It's just so stupid. But then,
all right, ISF, that was a shoddy solving for the future. I just thought I would take a very pragmatic, practical approach. It's like, don't go 85 with your lights off if you're doing something silly. Just don't. That's ISF solving for the future. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
41 in relation to the death of Torres. Gaona is facing murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime offenses. Torres and Gaona had an infant child together. Gaona was arrested May 2nd in McAllen, Texas, and will now go through the extradition process to be returned back to Brooks County. The Tallahassee Police Department is investigating a shooting that occurred at 2 a.m. Tuesday in the 3000 block of South Adams Street. An adult female was inside a residence when a bullet was fired through her window, striking her in the hand. No suspects were located, and TPD reports it is unclear if the victim was the target of the shooting. This is an open and active case. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MaclemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Slight chance for scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mainly sunny. High of 90, winds out of the southwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear again tonight, lows around 68. Mainly sunny tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 90. Chance for scattered storms Friday and Saturday, 86. Friday, 87. Saturday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 86.
Spring is literally just around the corner here in Tallahassee, and Southeast Portable Buildings has a great way to make your spring enjoyable. Gazebos, pole barns, all sorts of stuff to get your family outside in the spring and enjoying the great weather that is soon coming our way. Call Southeast Portable Buildings today, 580-6400. That's 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Here's what you missed on the Greg Tish Show.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. Pastor Tabner was alone with a female church employee. She in a towel, and he in his boxers. The charismatic 41-year-old Hurley explained the two of them had been making chili and gotten food on their clothes. with the hot dogs that they were making. We are hoping that the pastor used the right condiments.
Think there was at least one hot dog involved.
I don't know what you're talking about. We were just making chili dogs.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
And we ask it once a year, maybe once every other year. If you wanted to work in a different field and throw yourself into it, what would it be, Tom?
Man, you're going to put me on the spot like that?
Well, okay, so I bring it up because they found something cool again, and I always update my people. All you guys know, I'm kind of a fringe archaeologist, if you will. I don't actually practice in any way, shape, or form, and I have no useful skills in the arena, as in identification, understanding of the time period of what I'm looking at, ability to scrape away dust and rock without ruining the subject. I have no real skills whatsoever in the arena with which I fancy myself to be a fan of. But I do monitor the field. I even subscribe to the magazines and digitally, of course, these days. And I read all about the latest things. And every time I do, especially when I come across an interesting one, I bring it up. I bring it to the show, just like I do found articles or paintings or cards or whatever they might be at a garage sale near you that makes somebody fabulously wealthy. It's been part of the show for a long time. And I read one the other day, and I wanted to bring it up here because I find it fascinating. And I do think I would love this, but I only love the bottom line. I only love the result. I only love when they circle back and they tell me about the finished project, right? I wouldn't like the day-to-day. Today, Jeff, you have to get on your knees with this scrub brush and spend the next 7 hours in ungodly heat or freezing cold to remove an inch of dust from what we think might be an ancient femur from some poor bastard who met his end to a saber-toothed tiger. I wouldn't like that part, but I like reading when they finish it all up a year later and somebody else has done all that work. And so that's when I bring it up. But I want to see that's what I would throw myself into, but I don't think that I would. I don't know what that would be.
I'm pretty happy doing what I do right now. So I think it would be some variety of this. Like it might be a more anonymous position where it's like you're a copy editor. Nobody has those anymore though. But I would love to, in my inbox every morning or each night, see 15 pieces of literature that people put together that I just got to edit and fix and help move along and then send it on back and get into assembly line stuff. Like that would be the one thing about this career that's difficult is the irregularity of the timing of things.
Sure.
Like breaking news can happen at any point and you've got to be ready, especially if it's like your slot of time. But, getting into almost a mindless assembly line that's also in the creative field, that would be fun. I'd be okay with that. The backup plan would be maybe be a composition teacher at the English level, early college years or late high school years. We've got so many people who don't understand how to read or write. I mean, you look at like politicians' tweets and you're like, my God, sir, ma'am, how did you even make it out of high school? But apparently that's what's passing these days. So I'd like to improve that. Those would be the two things I'd do.
Yeah, well, I had this lament the other day when I was talking to my oldest about his upcoming stint in high school starting in the fall. And then we always talk about higher education. And he has a lot of questions about where you're going next. And I have this, this is longstanding. This is not just since Bryce got older and Clark is, going to be in 7th grade and all that. I've been very angry at the direction of education, in particular at the university level, for a very long time, because I kind of feel like universities, at least at the undergrad level, have become degree mills. Basically, anybody who gets in is going to pass. You're going to get your degree. So long as you keep those checks coming and they're making that money off of you, you're going to graduate. I promise you're going to graduate. They're going to be sure of it. How do I know this? They brag about it on the website, in which they tell you that 89% of the people who get into their school graduate. There was a time not all that long ago where they took great pride in saying, you couldn't cut the mustard. If you fail, you suck, you're gone. Tough luck. This is college, not high school. Get it together. But they don't do that anymore because they want another semester's check. followed by another semester's check. So you could be dumb as a brick, as Tom just alluded to, and tweet all kinds of asinine things with incorrect grammar. And it doesn't matter. That's the same sort of thing you did when you did your collegiate papers, and it got you a degree, maybe even with flying colors. So I lament all of that, and I'm still frustrated by it. So I'm glad to know that you would have gone back to help educate.
I don't know that I'd say dumb as a brick. Just unprepared, because I don't think people prioritize it. You know,
I think dumb as a brick is apt, but I'm saying at least at the undergrad level.
But here they are. I won't play this because then we'd get dinged by the copyrights. But here you go. This is the guy that they are now. The universities. They're Dean Martin. They're Dean Martin from back to school. Is that work your own, Dean Martin? I can't lie to you. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I'm satisfied.
It's one of the great lines, and that scene, just the look on his face is so good. Yeah. I love it.
And then the professor goes, "I'm mortified." He goes, "Well, gee whiz, Phil. The man said it's his work. What do you want from me?"
Well, gee whiz, Phil. It's such a great line. Okay, so let's circle back to what I was going to say, and that is that archaeologists suspect that the sandal that they discovered recently under the ice in the mountains of Norway is some 1,700 years old, and it was worn with fabric, animal skin, fashioned as a primitive sock, basically. So this is kind of cool, Tom. Get this. In the fall of 2019, a hiker was in Norway and came across this rather curious thing sticking out of the ice. And these days, with the ice melting as such, we're discovering all kinds of cool things, including animals we never knew existed and the bones of creatures that have us confused. And of course, artifacts from yesteryear, to say the least. 100-year-old shoes, for example, in this case, a sandal. Now, this guy that was walking was not an archaeologist. So he said, "Hey, what is that thing sticking out of the ice?" And I don't know. I don't know what that is. And his partner said, "I don't know what that is either, but it looks like it could be important." So they radioed down. They sent GPS coordinates. Now think about how thorough this son of a gun is. This guy cares deeply. I mean, very deeply. He sent GPS coordinates along with some photos that he took and left it in the ice. And he said, "Hey guys, we found this thing up here. It seems like it might be important, but we're going to keep it rolling. We don't want to screw it up." So then the archaeologist at the Espen Finstad of the Secrets of the Ice Told Live Science recovery team, there you go, they went up there to find all of it, and they did. They examined the sandal, and using radiocarbon dating, they determined that it originated as I mentioned before, 1,700 years ago. They uncovered numerous shoes, by the way. This is the oldest they have ever found, and it's unique. But here's the deal. They wondered how it was found in that snowy mountain in the first place. And here's the deal. Basically, there was a time, it looked stylistically, by the way, like Roman sandals of the same era, but it's impractical for the snow and ice. And so what they think is that there was a route that a lot of people walked with their horses and stuff, where they would have to get through this one pass, this one area. It wasn't a great area. It was rather dicey. But they found later on a bunch of horse dung all around these sandals, and also leaf fodder and arrow shafts and other items. So now they know what they theorized to be true about this one little pass in Norway that everybody used for the trade routes at the time. It was used, and there's a bunch of ancient horse poop to go along with the sandals, some 1,700 years old, and along with other people who fell along the way and died a most certainly gruesome death. But there it is. That's so cool. 1,700-year-old shoes.
Well, there you go. That's also something you said in the first hour, which is you think you know something, wait 5 minutes or wait a couple days, because that's the process of science, and archaeology is most certainly a scientific process, is you think you know something, and then there's like 6 different kinds of T-Rexes, not only 2. There you go. The things that were in the museum in New York, I don't know. That's probably was not a real dinosaur, but there's a combination of a bunch of these bones, and those guys, they actually had bigger jaws, and it goes on and on, but it refines what we know of the world. And people were wearing sandals, and they were probably being mocked even back in those days, saying, "What are you wearing sandals for? Put on some
wearing
socks,
sandals," and they tied them together and they made them out of sheepskin and everything else. And then they had to go through these cold ass mountains, and it was less than ideal terrain to be wearing sandals. And then they got killed because they couldn't run. I love how many people they find these days with arrows in their backs. I'm always like, oh my God, people didn't fool around back in the day. If they encountered somebody, they were quick to fight guy. They never sat around and had any sort of mumbled conversation. They were throwing spears.
Okay, so the two things that are really hard to picture for us, like, because if you try and think about what is the world like 5,000 years ago, what is the world like in the year 420?
You can't do it. Your brain can't do it.
Yeah. But when you're trying to envision these people, you got to think they're a bunch of Danny DeVitos running around. Like, that's what it is, mostly speaking. They're about that size. Yeah. And there weren't a whole lot of other people. Like, we're so used to being crowded at all times.
Yeah.
Even in desolate Tallahassee, I'm over in the Buck Lake area, there's still a lot of freaking people over here. There's a lot of cars. But if you saw somebody back in those days going through a pass or whatever, that's not good. You're not comfortable seeing other people unless it was in a town or a protected area. You're not used to running into people just, haphazardly saying hello. It was usually throw the spear first, ask questions later.
Well, also because nobody had anything. Everybody was hungry. Everybody was starving. Everybody was seeking that thing they don't have. And so there they are, all without anything, wandering about, trying to get to something, thinking we need to get things because this is not good, man. I'm starving to death, and so is this dude over here. And what are we going to do? Oh, there's somebody else, and they're trying to do the same damn thing. And I bet you what they're willing to do is kill my ass to get to that thing. So then they decide, let's hide behind this rock. And when that dude walks by, that's his ass. Well, he could be nice. He could be, but I'm not waiting around to find out. And then that's it. That's all. That's how it works. We'll come back, wrap it up momentarily. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Being a mom is tough, so let's make those weeknight dinners a little bit easier. This Mother's Day, Real Talk 93 and Basic Brooks Law Offices want to give one tough mother a grand prize of 22 gift cards from local restaurants for Mother's Day 2022. All you have to do is visit realtalk93.com and send us a message telling us why your nominee is one tough mother. Brought to you by Dana Brooks and the Basic Brooks Law Offices. Come back stronger with Basic Brooks. Online at basicbrooks.com.
Live and living color and totally free. Subscribe to Warchant TV on YouTube, the digital home of Warchant.com. From the practice field to pregame and the phone calls afterwards, Warchant's YouTube channel is home to live programming like Seminole Headlines, Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, as well as Trench Talk, a live Q&A with Noles offensive lineman Devontae Love-Taylor. Just search Warchant on YouTube and click or tap the subscribe button. That's it. It's totally free. Warchant TV on YouTube. Just another reason we're the ultimate Seminole sports source.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Wrapping it up, Jeff Cameron Show. Feels a little bit, at least for us, like a Libations Friday. I'm not going to lie. Is that pouring salt in the wounds for those that it's not a Libations Friday for? It's not. We're back this week. We're just not on tomorrow. We will be back on Friday. So I look forward to being back with you then. And hopefully we're talking about good things. Maybe by then, Tom, we will have learned that Florida State has hit the jackpot, baby. All of a sudden, we've got 4 offensive linemen, a star wide receiver, and a beast of a rush-in that have all said, we're coming to Tallahassee. It's time to whoop that ass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can dream. We can dream. Maybe we could grab one from somewhere in Alabama and take them back with us. That'd be good.
Yeah, so for those, again, we told you at the outset of today's show, we won't be in town tomorrow because we're going on a business meeting, but also we're not lying. We're playing golf at a nice place in Alabama, and I don't know this course. I know certainly everybody knows Robert Trent Jones golf courses, of which there are a gazillion, right? And they're like the whole trail, of course. And I've always wanted to play some, and we get an opportunity starting today as you're listening to this, and tomorrow, and then we'll be back in time to do a show Friday. But the point would be, I've always wanted to. I've always been excited to play it, but I don't know about you. I get slightly nervous when I'm playing new courses that are beautiful. I don't want to screw them up. I want to do right by the course. I remember we played TPC. I played TPC Sawgrass. It took me 4 holes to get over thinking about the shots I'd seen other people hit on that course. Now, this is different because these aren't that. But I remember every time we'd go to a hole, I'd be like, oh, I remember seeing Phil Mickelson hit this shot and Tiger Woods hit this shot. And so never thinking I could, just wanting to stand where those shots took place.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The first time I played Legacy here in town, because it's so quiet out there. Like the one thing about the huge difference between Don Veller and Seminole Legacy. Of course, the layout's completely different, and I get that. But Don Veller, as you remember, was always so busy. Like people everywhere, students everywhere. I mean, it was a 5-hour round. You were going to be playing 5.5 hours. And at Legacy, everything is spread out so much that when you go, it feels like you're on an island. It's just by yourselves. You're like, hoo, this is nice. So the good thing for us tomorrow is that we start, and we'll have finished it by now, but we're playing a 9-hole. We're playing the par 3 course, the short course. So a little shootout. That'll get you warmed up for the championship level 18-hole courses. Is playing a little par 3. So that should get you in good spirits.
You're wearing the hat. The timing couldn't be better. There it is. North Florida Payroll Services, our friends. There, look at that. Lean in and look at that beautiful cap. There we go. We thank them for sponsoring Probables. If you would, Matthew, cue it up. Hit that Probables music or sounder, and I will get. That's right. I took the time to look ahead to Probables for the day that we're not going to be here. It's a beautiful thing.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, Probables?
D-backs, Marlins, Madison Bumgarner goes for the D-backs. Marlins, Elcier Hernandez. Pirates, Tigers, Dylan Peters, Michael Pineda. Pirates, Tigers, making up for the postponed game yesterday, Jose Quintana and Alex Fado. Padres, Guardians, Mackenzie Gore and Cal Quantrill. We got the Padres and the Guardians again. Both TBD, as they also have makeup. The weather's been bad a couple different places. Cardinals, Royals, Adam Wainwright, Chris Bubik. Chris Bubik isn't getting anybody out, just so you know, by the way. I know not everybody is paying attention to the 7-14 Royals, but Chris Bubik is 0-2 with a 10.50. Ouch. Braves, Mets, Ian Anderson, Tyler McGill. We got Mariners, Strohs, Matt Brash, Justin Verlander, Rays, A's, Corey Kluber, Frankie Montas, Rangers, Phillies, Martin Perez, Zach Wheeler, Twins, Orioles, Dylan Bundy, Kyle Brandish, Yankees, Blue Jays, Nestor Cortez, Angels, Red Sox, TBD, and Garrett Whitlock, White Sox, Cubs, Lucas Giolito, and Kyle Hendricks. Full slate, baby. Reds, Brewers, Vladimir Gutierrez, Freddie Peralta, Nats, Rockies, Patrick Corbin, and Austin Gomber. Very quietly, the Rockies are 13-9. Giants, Dodgers, Alex Wood, and TBD. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. There you go. All right. Some probables. Got any wagers for the upcoming weekend? I do. I looked ahead to that as well. I thought about it. We'll be able to talk about it on Friday, but the tournament gets underway on Thursday, and we're not doing the show on Thursday. So I thought, what should we do here? Should we go look at some particular bets? I like these three guys on your fantasy lineup if you're feeling good. I like Corey Connors at 20-1. I like Abraham Answer at 28-1. And I kind of like Cameron Young and Seamus Power, both at over 35-1. Just saying, sprinkle it into your little fantasy lineups. We're back. Golf tournaments are getting normal again. I didn't know what to do with the tournament last week in Mexico because that's the first time the Mexican Open has occurred. It's already happened, but it's never happened at that particular course. So it was hard to get a feel. And if you jumped on the favorite in John Rahm, there was no real value there, and John Rahm won. And you want to know how good John Rahm is? He won and he didn't play well. That's how good John Rahm is.
No, he did not play well at all. And there was actually a shot on 18 because I watched the final 4 or 5 holes. Since it was a one-shot spread, I thought, you never know what kind of fireworks might come here. It's definitely for John Rahm like a situation where it's don't choke rather than go get it. It's like, don't choke, man. You're not playing anybody. And it was Kurt Kitayama. It was on the 18th hole on a little plateau shelf. It's a par 5 to the left of the bunker. And my man hits it above palm trees, 214 yards over the green, just in the bunker. He was about 2 feet away from hitting one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. So you never know. Even in these lesser than tournaments, you might see some greatness. So enjoy it. I don't even know where they're playing though. If you said it, I didn't hear it.
Well, what I'm telling you is that they are Rory McIlroy's in this field. It's a better field. Tony Finau played exceptionally well at the end of last week and went crazy on a birdie fest. If he finds his putting stroke, which is always the case, he could be interesting again this week. Abraham Answer's in this week. Again, he'll play well on this course. So anyhow, point is you've got better star power this week. Should be a little bit more fun. And I want to give you some guys that maybe you can win a daily fantasy tournament with. All right, that's it. That's all. We're back with you live on Friday. Our thanks to Matthew for helping us out with this, putting together the show. My thanks to Tommy, as always. Good work out of you. Thanks to all of you who watched and or listened. We appreciate you. We'll be back Friday. Have a great day tomorrow, everybody. Peace.